Some views now from a good friend of mine, Sebastian Salek, who is a Labour councillor and commentator. Good morning, Seb.
Good morning. Good to see you on a weekday. How are you?
Yes, indeed. I've been dragged out of bed. Poor Julia's got the lurgy. And I will do a pale imitation, Sebastian. What about this, though? Rachel Reeves says there were too many budget leaks. Wasn't she the one responsible for them?
Oh, you never know where these things are coming from, do you? I mean, ideally, you want a tight ship where everybody is rowing in the same direction, to use an awful metaphor, but crucially not saying things they shouldn't be to journalists. And I think especially around the budget, you want to make sure that things are tight. Now, look, I think sometimes it is useful to get some ideas out there, get a read on the public, especially when you're making big decisions. You can use that as a bit of a barometer, can't you?
Yeah.
Ultimately, you want to be in control in number 11 rather than having people going rogue and leaking things they shouldn't be.
Yeah, most definitely. Is Sir Keir Starmer a wicked liar?
I don't think so. Look, I was having this conversation with Julia the other day. I don't see the argument that he is in some way evil. This is a man who has given most of his life to public service. He's often worked for free for people who needed it when he was a lawyer. He could have hung up his boots a long time ago, but he's chosen to come into Parliament to serve again in a job that is really hard, in a time that we can all accept is really, really hard. I certainly wouldn't want to be Prime Minister right now. And he's making the best of it. Look, I think I always say this, I get bored of saying it, it's going to take time to turn things around. But I don't think he's any way malicious or a liar or anything like that. Just really, really doesn't wash with me.
If you've got a manifesto that proposes a number of policies and then what patterns out is the polar opposite, that's lying, isn't it? Or at least misinformation or untruth?
It would be if that were your intention the whole time. If you thought, yes, we're going to say these things, and the second we get in, we're going to change our mind, do something completely different.
I think that was their plan.
That would be
I think that was their plan, because they'd seen the books. When they said we won't raise taxes on working people, they knew full well that they would. And that's why I think it's wicked, because I think lying is always wicked, especially if it affects people's lives.
When are you suggesting this happened? Are you talking about recently, or are you talking about...
I'm talking about the manifesto where they said that they would only need to raise taxes by about £11 billion. We've had about 70 billion's worth. And when Rachel Reeves, she had her budget, the October budget, of course, in 2024, the Halloween budget, and she said, this will be the last time I come and get your money. And a year later, it was even worse. That's lying, isn't it?
No, because as you know, the position changes so quickly. They didn't know about the initial black hole. That was a huge moment when they came into power and realised the severity of the situation. Then the economy transformed, didn't it? We had tariffs from Trump. We had all sorts of global developments, and things didn't go so well locally, domestically either. And you have to be able to respond to that. That's your job as the Chancellor, to be nimble. And sometimes
you've got to respond to
what you initially hoped to do.
Yeah, you've got to respond to the consequences of your own terrible policies. I mean, there was no pandemic, no fresh invasion, no excuse whatsoever. Even energy prices are coming down, but our bills are going up.
Well, energy bills, again, it's going to take time. And I think GB Energy is a really good response to that. It's about making sure that our energy is homegrown, that we own it, that if Russia invades another country, it doesn't see our prices spike, and it's more sustainable for the future. Look, I know that renewable energy feels expensive because up front it is. It requires an investment. But the idea is that pays off over time. And once we get over that initial hump, we can enjoy cheaper energy like they do in France, where they're heavily invested in nuclear, and many other countries as well.
Is Roger Bolton right, former BBC executive and presenter, that I've gone too far using the word wicked about the Prime Minister?
I think so. It goes back to what I was saying a moment ago. Look, criticise the Prime Minister all you want. I think we have a brilliant free press, and we're very happy as Brits to criticise and satirise and all those things, which are really important. I wouldn't want to live in a country where we couldn't do any of that. But I just don't believe that he is malicious. From everything I've seen of him, right down to a local level within the party, it's full of people who want the best for their residents and for their constituents. I don't think anybody has an evil agenda going on. It's just, I've seen no clue of that whatsoever. If I had, I wouldn't be in the party. It's not something I'd want to be associated with.
Sebastian, flu cases are worsening. My heart goes out to any of our viewers and listeners who are struggling with a very nasty strain at the moment. Do we need to bring back masks to stop the spread?
I think it's up to individual choice, isn't it? Now, look, I think masks are effective. I read the scientific studies and I see the data on this, and it shows that whether it's a non-surgical mask or a surgical mask or a non-layered non-surgical mask, they can both reduce transmission rates. I don't think we should be mandating it. I don't think we should be telling people what to do. We didn't do that during COVID either, but it comes back to that idea of...
We mandated masks during COVID. That's why I chopped one up on the radio and had a viral video.
You did.
It was the making of me.
Remind me, because it was so long ago and it was all a blur.
2020, we were told don't wear them, they don't work.
Was it a recommendation?
Yeah, we were told not to wear them, they don't work. They're very bad for the environment, of course. And then suddenly they mandated them because they wanted to have the messaging that we're in a pandemic. It was all theatre.
Was it a law, though, that you had to wear a mask?
Well, it was a mandate. It wasn't a law, no. But you certainly,
so that's what I'm getting at.
Couldn't go into Sainsbury's without one.
Yeah, no, you're right. So it was never a full law. And I think now, look, I think that the chap from the top of the NHS who's recommending this is perfectly sensible. It is a way of lowering transmission rates. And it's just a way of looking out for your fellow citizens, isn't it? If you're going to get on the train or on the bus or go to the supermarket, it's helpful if you're coughing and sneezing to be able to contain that physically rather than spluttering out all over the avocados, wherever it is you're buying.
Is it not worrying that the head of the NHS is so profoundly ignorant about science?
I don't think.
I mean, this is a guy who heads an organisation that's supposed to help us with our health and keep us alive, keep us on the planet. And he thinks that a surgical mask is going to stop a seasonal respiratory virus, which is a bit of a hard sell given the fact that the holes in a mask are around 1,000 times bigger than the virus itself. I mean, should this guy be in charge of the NHS if he believes in such junk science?
I mean, as I say, the studies that I've read certainly show that it slows transmission, whether it's a surgical or a non-surgical mask. If you've got any studies to suggest the opposite, I'd be very keen to read them.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I've got Texas and I've got Florida who didn't mandate masks, and they had the same, if not better, outcomes during the COVID-19 pandemic. Similarly, Sweden, who never mandated masks, and they've had the lowest excess deaths across Europe from 2020 to 2023.
Yeah, I think Sweden's a really interesting one because they have a very high level of compliance, and that's really the strategy that they use.
No, that's not true. No, people didn't wear masks in Sweden. There was footage during the pandemic of people in cafes having normal lives, going to work, mask-free. It's not a ringing endorsement for those filthy face rags, is it?
All I'm telling you is that was the strategy in Finland that the government used, that they asked people to do things rather than forcing them to. And for them, you may argue it worked. I've seen, again, a study that suggests that if they did what we did, their deaths would have been halved and vice versa. Our deaths would have doubled if we've done what they've done. So, look, I think broadly, let's go back to the pandemic. Let's get into it. I think the government made a lot of good decisions that they had to at the time. They obviously made a lot of mess ups as well.
Do you think those surgical masks stop transmission of a virus like the flu?
They don't stop transmission, but they certainly slow it.
How do they do that? What is the mechanism by which they stop this tiny, tiny airborne virus?
I don't know.
How does it happen?
I just have to trust.
Well, you've read the studies. You're right up to date with all the reports and everything, aren't you?
I've read the studies.
Wasn't that your bedtime reading last night, Seb?
No, look.
No, what it is, right? I'm really happy with real measures, right? I'm not a monster, okay? The virus is horrific. You know, people are struggling with flu, and of course, COVID was devastating. It was a horrific pandemic. But what I want advice and policies that actually work. You know, if you've got the flu at the moment, it makes a lot of sense to stay home and don't give it to your colleagues. I get that. You know, but do we have to peddle this nonsense about masks once again, which were basically a left-wing mechanism of control?
I think that's a little bit tinfoil hat, Mark.
Well, why did the left? Why were the left so? Why did they love the masks? And why did Keir Starmer keep wearing the masks even after the pandemic when everyone else went, I'm afraid they don't work?
I'll remind you, Mark, crucially, the left weren't in government during the pandemic. It was the Tories telling us to wear masks, because I don't think really it should be a political issue. If there's a scientific consensus on something, we can move past it.
Nigel Farage didn't wear a mask. I mean, just a quick one, Sebastian. Obviously, don't want to, you know, it's a bit retro going back to the mask thing, but an interesting one with the masks. You mentioned the surgical masks, which you believe might slow the spread. Well, Germany did not recognise those surgical masks, right? You couldn't get on a train with a surgical mask during the pandemic because they said they don't work. It has to be an N95.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you wear an N95, that is going to be more effective, isn't it? They're just a higher tech.
So we don't have to wear the surgical ones then? We don't have to...
Well,
you
there
agree
are
with the
degrees
Germans?
of efficacy, aren't there, with masks? You know, if you put a tissue over your mouth, it's going to do something, but not as much as if you wear a surgical mask, and not as much as if you wear an N95. You know, it sits on a spectrum. What I would say as a general message is that we should be courteous to those that we're around. If we are coughing and spluttering, but we have to go out, just try and cover up and try and stop the spread of a virus that can be really nasty and end up with somebody else off work and not being able to earn money and all the rest of it.
Seb, stay with me. Thank you for this. A quick response, if you can, from Claire Pearsall. What do you think about this? Have I gone too far?
What, with the word wicked?
No, well, no, we've got wicked, of course. But the masking.
The masking. Do you know what? I
can't do this theatre.
No, I can't.
I don't want to have pretend.
No, and I think that if we had some evidence that it was absolutely going to stop transmission, then people would do that.
Like staying home, that works.
Staying home works. Do you know what? Washing your hands. People just need to look after their own hand sanitizer. Just use that, wash your hands, stay home when you're ill. Just a little bit of common sense. We don't need to bring back masks.
Listen, quick one before you go, Sebastian. Lovely to have you on the show as always. What do you make of Donald Trump's remarks about Sadiq Khan, a horrible mayor who loves open borders and is destroying the capital?
I mean, we know what Trump thinks of Sadiq Khan, don't we? And we know what he thinks of Muslims in general. He's never been particularly benevolent towards them. It was one of the first things he did, wasn't it, back in 2016, was banning Muslims from coming into the US. And I really do think that's a big part of the reason Trump is so rude about Sadiq Khan. Look, I live under Sadiq Khan in London, and I'm very pleased to. He's been very successful electorally, despite taking some really big risks. ULEZ was a massive risk. It was clearly controversial, but it's paid off. 99% of sites across London that test for air quality have seen an improvement since 2019. I think that's something to be incredibly proud of. In a city of 9 million people, we deserve to have healthy lungs, and I'm very thankful to the mayor for that.
Sebastian, you're not wicked at all. You're a star. Thank you so much for joining us. We always love having you on the show. Sebastian Salek is a Labour councillor and commentator. And listen, lots of people will just think I've got no problem wearing a mask if it's a sort of polite thing to do on public transport, etc. Let me know what you